So for this video, me and my lovely fiance, Stacy, are going to be introducing the announcement video for Battle of the Bands 3. And this time around, it's all about one-hit wonders.
Yep. So kind of similar to last round, we're going to have each team represent a decade. And then each decade has a list of 5 one-hit wonders that are their team's prompts.
And the teams, just like last time, will be Team 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And like Stacy said, each decade will have 5 one-hit wonders. And this time around, I will be the captain for Team 70s. And Nala from Here There Be Stories will be the captain for Team 80s. Nico from Nico's Book Reviews will be for Team 90s. And Ian from Ian the Reader will be the captain for Team 2000s.
Yes, it should be a blast.
Yes.
And we're very glad that all the captains wanted to return for a future round.
Team 70s for the win!
For anyone wondering, I'm going to be Team 80s this round.
Not even on my team.
Nope.
The betrayal.
Well, listen, if I was on your team and we somehow won, everyone would be saying collusion. So it's probably just better that we're not on the same team anyway. Plus, I've been on a team with Nico, with AC/DC. I've been on Ian's team with Fleetwood Mac, and I've never been on Nala's team yet. So I'm excited to be on Team 80s with Nala.
I guess you just don't want to be on the winning team.
Oh, I'm on the winning team.
Oh boy. So essentially, if you participated last time, it's basically the same rules as last time, but for anybody that's new or they're wondering what this is all about, we're going to go ahead and go through all of the rules and the details in this announcement video.
I'm starting with that this is happening in April of 2024.
Yeah,
we didn't say that yet.
That's important.
Yeah, maybe. Kinda.
Yeah. And this is coming out at the beginning of March, and you have all month to sign up on the Bookish Drummer Discord. The link will be down below. It's happening exclusively on the Bookish Drummer Discord, and the readathon, like Stacy said, starts April 1st.
Yeah, so in order to sign up, you want to go ahead and join the Discord if you haven't already, and then there's a heading, like a category heading in there called Battle of the Bands Readathon. There's a channel in there called Choose Your Team, and you just react with whatever emoji on the poll for whatever team you want. So we do have a couple rules for the readathon. First is that any book, in order to count, has to be at least 150 pages. And it doesn't matter if it's a novel or novella or like a bind-up short story collection or novella collection or whatever, as long as it's at least 150 pages. And on that vein, if you want to read just a novella that's part of a collection, that's fine too, as long as it's at least 150 pages.
And also nonfiction can count.
Yes, nonfiction can count as long as you can fit it in the prompt, go for it. So another main thing is only 1 book per prompt. There's no doubling up book-wise or prompt-wise.
In order to get points for the 20 prompts, you have to read 20 books.
Yes. Unfortunately, graphic novels, manga, or,
comic books.
Yeah, comic books. Books that are not text-based won't count for this readathon. Mainly, we just want everyone to be on a level playing field, and we know that reading one of those is much quicker than reading, 150-page text-based book. So we want to keep everyone on a level playing field and say no image-based books towards this readathon. All the prompts are open to your own interpretation, but use common sense when you're figuring it out. Like, if one of them is a popular American author, you could go with someone who's not like Brandon Sanderson level popular. Brandon Sanderson level popular. But as long as they're, actually American and at least somewhat popular, like people know who they are. Or you can interpret that as like popular currently instead of just over time popularity. You can kind of put your own twist on it as long as it makes sense to you and it fulfills the prompt.
But don't pick a British author or an Australian author. Use common sense.
Yeah, exactly. So prompts can be read in any order, and you might want to be strategic with how you tackle those. If you're a mood reader, maybe you just go with whatever you're in the mood for. That's off your TBR that you want to dive into next. But there will be some strategy involved, and we can get into that in a second here when we talk about how this all goes scoring-wise.
So how this works is that there's 2 essential ways to help your team. The first way is to gain points for your team by reading your own team's prompts. Every book you read will be plus 30 points if it's for your team's prompts. And then if you read another team's prompt, that team loses 10 points.
Yes.
So say you're on Team 70s and you read a prompt for Team 2000s. Team 2000s will lose 10 points.
And it has to be against Team 2000s if it's a Team 2000s prompt. Like, you can't read a Team 2000s prompt and say, oh, I want to take away points from 80s or 90s.
Yep. So essentially, you can, if you were to read 20, which you certainly don't have to, the max score you can get for your own team is 150, and then all the other teams you can minus 50 for all of them.
Right. But there's also bonus challenges.
Oh boy.
Which will be, what, 10 points for completing?
10 points each.
So technically you could gain your team 170 points because there'll be 2 bonus challenges at some point through the month.
So some certain strategies and tips that we've noticed throughout different Battle of the Bands. If you know you're not going to read all 20 prompts, or even you're going to read like less than 10 books, probably the best strategy is to gain points for your teams, focus on your team's prompts, and then go and attack different teams.
Yeah. But if you're somebody who's going to read, 15 to 20 books, you probably don't want to do your own team's prompts very early, because then you're essentially putting a target on your back when the scoreboard update comes out. You don't want to be way ahead because you don't want to be in first, because everyone's going to be like, oh, this team's in first, we got to get them. But then also you can be even more strategic in that you could read like your longer books kind of early, so it appears that you're reading a little bit slower, and then you can affect the points a lot more towards the end by reading all your short things at the end. Or you can do things like, target a team that you don't think will be much of a threat at the beginning, so that the team you think will be a threat in the end actually still has a bit of a score, so that everyone else goes after them after the update. Things like that. You can be creative with how you want to strategize as a team. And we do have team chats on the Discord. You can talk to your team and see what you want to do.
So essentially, the main overall rule for this readathon is don't be a dick. We're all here to have a good time, to read books, and to have some friendly banter here and there. But, don't be a dick. Like, just, we're here to have fun and read books.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also going to be an frequently asked questions, FAQ section. We definitely get a lot of questions. Hopefully we were pretty thorough with this video, but there's definitely going to be some questions that you may or may not have. So check those out before you ask us. We will be available if you have any questions, but
yeah,
I can assure you that most of the questions you have are probably answered in the FAQ.
And if not, we're happy to answer them there.
And now we're going to get to the fun part where we talk about the prompts.
Yes. And before we get into this, a big shout out to all of the captains and also our mod, Pat Sava, for helping us brainstorm and come up with and finesse the prompts.
Yes. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to quickly go over the prompts for Team 70s, the winning team.
In your dreams.
So prompt number 1 is Play That Funky Music, which is a book with a funky, weird, or striking cover. Now for this one, pretty self-explanatory. If you have a book and it's got a weird looking cover, or you look at it and it's just very striking, then yeah, you can use that.
Or if it's got a funky color palette, something you would think of as like a groovy 70s colors, anything that goes with that.
And song number 2, prompt number 2, Hooked on a Feeling. Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka.
You're way too excited about this.
And the prompt is immediately binge the next book in a series. So if you're reading a book for the readathon that's in a series, you want to use a book that like you immediately want to jump into.
Yeah, exactly. And you read it right after finishing the next one. Like, you're hooked on the feeling that the series gives you and you want more, so you binge.
And song number 3, prompt number 3, American Pie, which the prompt is a book by a popular American author. And we kind of already talked about this as an example. Pretty self-explanatory. Read a book by a popular American author.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a threshold for what makes someone popular. Like, if you have multiple friends that have read it, or like if it has a lot of ratings on Goodreads or something, like if pretty much like the community has heard of this author and they're American, go for it.
American, not British, not Canadian, not Australian.
Well, it's American Pie.
Exactly. And prompt number 4, stuck in the middle with you. And the prompt is the second book in a trilogy or the middle book in a series. So obviously, if you've got a trilogy, go with the second book. But if it's longer than a trilogy, basically anything besides the first or last book.
Yep.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yep. You're stuck in the middle, hoping to get unstuck.
And the last prompt for Team 70s, Blinded by the Light. And the prompt is a book with a character who is blinded by their ambition.
Yeah, so they're on a mission to accomplish something, but they don't really necessarily consider everyone else's feelings or consider the effects of what they're doing to try and achieve what they want. You know, something along those lines.
Yeah, they are very determined, but also not very cautionary.
Yeah, or very aware.
Yeah.
So the first 80s prompt number 6, is Take on Me, and this is to read a book that you're scared to take on. So this could be anything from like something you're intimidated to read because you think the prose isn't really going to be for you. Maybe it's a classic, or maybe it's a horror book that you are unsure if it's going to spook you.
Yeah, and normally when I think of like books that are going to scare me, it's because of the length.
Yeah.
But we want to avoid that because we have 150-page minimum.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go for it, go for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to avoid long books if you want.
Yeah, we'll see.
So prompt number 7 is Maniac, and that's to read a book that you can binge in 1 or 2 sittings. Like reading like you've never read before.
Yep.
Instead of dancing like she's never danced before. Yeah.
And yeah, basically shorter books, the better for this one.
Yeah, but it has to be at least 150, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And to this point, like, you don't actually have to binge it in 1 or 2 sittings, just it's something you're capable of binging in 1 or 2 sittings. So prompt 8 is Never Gonna Give You Up, and for this, it's Rickroll. You roll a die to determine the page length of the book you have to read. So if you roll a 1, it's 150 pages, and then for every additional dot on the die, you add 50 pages. So for example, if you roll a 2, it'd be 200 pages. If you rolled a 6, it'd be 400 pages. So you don't have to go like exactly page length. I think when I did my TBR, I rolled a 5, which would be 350, and I ended up picking a paperback that's like 347. Basically, as long as it's close to what you rolled, you're good enough.
Never gonna give you up.
So prompt 9 is The Safety Dance, and that's to read a book that's a safe bet you'll enjoy.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Anything you think you'll like. Anything you think that will go well. So this could be like another book by an author you've already liked, a book that your friends with similar tastes have been raving about. It could be another book in a series where you've really enjoyed the previous entries in the series. You know, anything that you think, oh, I'm sure to enjoy that kind of thing.
This would not be the prompt to take a risk on a book.
Yeah. So the last 80s prompt 10, is Don't You Forget About Me. And that's for a book you wanted to read a long time ago, but still haven't. So it could be something you were excited about when it was coming out, but you still haven't gotten around to it, or for whatever reason, you haven't read it yet.
We all have those kind of books.
Oh, yeah, never-ending TBRs. You can't read everything, right?
And now moving on to Team 90s prompts. The first one is You Can't Touch This, and the prompt is a book you don't own physically. So basically anything that you could get from the library, or an audiobook, or an ebook. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory.
And the next prompt, number 12, is Jump Around, a book with multiple POVs and or multiple timelines. So if a book is being told in multiple perspectives, or really if it jumps back and forth between different timelines.
Yep.
Again, self-explanatory.
Yep.
And prompt number 13, Cotton Eye Joe, a book with redneck, western, or country vibes.
Yeah, so this could be basically expanded to like small town country. It could be anything from like Flintlock Western or like Pioneer Days Western.
A lot of different directions you can go.
Yeah, or it could, like, redneck could mean uneducated character that's, you know, not from the city. Could, a lot of ways you could go with that.
And number 14 is Tub Thumping. And if you don't know what that song is, it's the one that goes, I get knocked down.
And I get up again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for that one, we have a book with a redemption story or a persistent character.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
No.
All right.
It explains itself. We did very uncomplicated prompts this time.
Yeah. And the last one for Team 90s, number 15, Closing Time. The final book in a series or the last book in an author's backlist.
And by that we mean not necessarily the oldest book in their backlist, but the last book of their backlist that you have not read yet. So essentially it's like closing out an era of your reading with that author by finishing out all of their books.
So for an example, you've read all of Taylor Jenkins Reid except for one.
Yeah, so I think that is actually on my TBR. I'll be reading after I do, which will close out me reading all of Taylor Jenkins Reid until she comes out with something new. So the first prompt for Team 2000s is Who Let the Dogs Out? And this is to read a popular book that you just don't understand the hype for, because we kind of feel that way about this song.
Who let the dogs out?
Who? Prompt 17 is Smooth Criminal, and that's to read a book featuring a heist or an assassin.
Again, self-explanatory.
Yep.
I love this song, by the way. I'm not a big fan of some of these 2000s ones, but that one's an awesome song.
What are you talking about? All these 2000 songs are great. They're very different from each other, but they all had a moment in the 2000s.
They can stay in the 2000s.
Oh. No. So prompt 18 is Cupid Shuffle, and that's to read a book that you randomly generated from either your TBR list or your want to read list or your shelves, anything like that.
And I've been doing that. I have a list, Excel list of all my unread books, and I just do a random number generator, and whatever gets picked is what I read for the month.
Yeah, so I don't actually have like a designated TBR list, so I did my Goodreads want to read shelf. Prompt number 19 is Bad Day, and that's to read a book featuring a character who's having a bad day or just a bad time of it in general.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I think most characters in a book are going to have a bad day eventually.
Yeah, but like this is more like the premise of the book is like things are not going well for this person.
Yeah.
It's like going into the book, that like things are not going well. So like you could approach this as like a revenge story because like obviously there's a catalyst for that revenge and things are not going well.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could just approach this as like a character who's thrown into a situation that you're like, ooh, that's gonna be dicey, or like I wonder how they're gonna get out of this, anything like that.
Or they're in a situation that you yourself would not want to be in.
Yeah, exactly. Like more nonfiction wise or memoir wise, you could think like, somebody who's escaped a cult and they're talking about like their experience within that cult. Something, it could be sad tone too, And the final prompt 20, is Sandstorm, and that's to read a book with a desert setting. And will also allow you to extend this to a drought setting if you're having difficulty finding a desert setting.
And if you don't know what that song is, that's that weird, like, it's that dance song that's like, it's
the song that brought EDM to popularity. Or one of them. Okay, we get it. It is hard, though, I will say, when we're going over these prompts, to not actually sing them. And I know, like, when I was prepping graphics and stuff, I had the playlist for all of them on repeat because I was, like, trying to sing them.
We'll have that link down below, too.
Yes, we can do that. So now that you've seen all the prompts and you're probably excited to plan your TBR, well, first, don't forget to sign up. But second, when you get to planning, we have TBR or tracker graphics you can use. We also have a StoryGraph challenge for anyone who uses StoryGraph. We have a Google Doc that you can use as a TBR tracker. What else do we have to link other than the playlist and the Discord and that stuff? I
think you mentioned it all, baby.
I feel like there's more. Oh, there is going to be a Google Doc that compiles all of the readathon information too that we'll have linked
down below.
Yes.
And everybody in the comments thanks Stacy because she is the hard worker behind all of this and makes it all possible.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been funny. Jake's been preparing his own little March Madness project, and like every time you do something to the spreadsheet or link it, somebody's like, oh, you did this silly. He's like, I would never do the readathons. I was like, you could do it.
If I was in
Listen.
charge of the readathon stuff, it would be pure and utter chaos.
No. I mean, like, the first time you do it, you learn a lot. Now, I've kind of, like, I'm an old hat at this almost. Like, I've prepared, what, like 6, 7 readathons where I've done most of the prep and back-end administrative stuff. So, you know, you get better at it, and it just becomes streamlined.
You're a pro.
I mean, it's still a lot of work, but it's not intimidating once you know what you're doing.
You're a pro.
Aw, thanks. I think the main thing for me is, like, every subsequent readathon I do, I'm figuring out coding and automating more and more of, like, the submissions in the spreadsheet. I think that's the biggest thing.
All right, so that is our announcement for Battle of the Bands 3 One-Hit Wonders.
Hope to see you there on the Discord, and I hope you're looking forward to April as well.
Leave down in the comments below if you're interested in joining and signing up, and which team you want to be on. Do you want to be on the winning team? Team 70s?
You're funny.
Or Team 80s, I guess you could join.
Oh, gee, thanks.
You could join her, I guess.
Gee, thanks. Or you could join Ian or Nico. Both of their prompts and teams are going to be fantastic as well. Everyone should hopefully have a good time regardless of what team they're on. And don't forget, the last day to sign up will be March 31st. Probably midnight Eastern. Maybe we'll extend it to midnight Pacific if anyone's late. But I'll probably shut down, like, channel reactions before I go to bed. And then anyone who signs up after that can just, like, message us or put on the FAQ or something. Hey, I want to sign up.
And that's all we got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. And of course, the Bookish Drummer Discord, where all of this is taking place. And a bunch of read-alongs and book clubs that we've got going on. And I got Patreon, if you want to support me there. And Amazon wishlist. Not that I need any more books, but it's there.
Fun fact, if you do decide to support Jake on Patreon, every time we do a readathon, you get early access to choosing your team and getting the prompts and graphics.
We've already had 8 people sign up early.
Yes.
So there's that. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a fantastic day.
Bye.